Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Adobe booth. My name is Meagan Keane, and I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Professional Film and Video at Adobe. And I am joined by some lovely panelists here that I'm just going to go ahead and introduce to you. We also are live streaming this panel, so hello to the live stream audience. I will be leaving some time at the end of the panel for questions, both from you guys and from the live stream. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so to my left is Sam Gorski and Niko Pueringer. They are co-founders of Corridor Digital, which for anybody who is not familiar is an LA-based video content studio, which was founded in 2009. So they've been in the game for a while. Corridor specializes in creative and experimental YouTube content, releasing over 250 pieces of content a year, including viral videos, television quality vlog series, a podcast, and groundbreaking artistic concept pieces. Corridor has over 1 billion worldwide views and over 7 million online followers. And if you want to learn more about their workflows at Corridor Digital, Sam and Niko are going to be presenting here on the booth tomorrow and Wednesday. So join us for more then. Let's give a round of applause for Sam and Niko.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then to their left, we have Jessica Neistadt. Jessica is a style, lifestyle, and girl boss content creator. The content she creates aims to inspire and empower women in all walks of life to feel confident both inside and out, to be successful, and to become the best versions of themselves in their professional and personal lives. Let's give a round of applause for Jessica. And finally, on the end, we have Peter McKinnon. He is an internationally known photographer and filmmaker based in Toronto, Ontario. Peter burst onto the international scene through his YouTube channel, where he posts videos and vlogs to millions, and is most known for his useful photography tips and tricks. Welcome, Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, so the topic of this panel is about keeping pace with a rapidly changing industry. Obviously, for anybody who's been watching, creating content for online has changed so fast in the last year, in the last 5 years. All four of these panelists have been in the game for quite a while, so they have a good purview of how that progression is happening and how things are continuing to evolve. So because of that, I want to go down the line and just have you guys paint a picture of what your production was like when you first started.
First started, well, you want to go way, way back to like 2002?
Yeah,
like way back?
Yeah, all the way back.
Oh boy.
All the way back.
Well, shooting on tiny little cassettes, micro DV tapes. That was the workflow back then.
Sony DS11.
Oh
Do you
my
remember
gosh.
those decks?
Yeah, my dad's GL1. That workflow. But yeah, it was render intensive. Just the fact that you had to use a tape.
Yep.
That's how far we've come. But yeah,
Yeah, it's like I remember plugging in the camera and like hoping that Final Cut back then would detect the edits automatically and hopefully split the clips correctly, or at least get your picture to show up. And you're digging around for a FireWire cable and hoping that your computer has the right port and all that stuff.
yeah, trying to figure out which field we wanted, if we wanted the lower field for that video, because there wasn't even progressive scan yet.
And when you guys started in 2009, like how fast would you turn a video around?
We turn our video around in 2 weeks. It's kind of always been our go-to schedule. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you're relying on your creativity and your planning and your execution to make sure that you can stick within that format. And usually you don't sleep for a night or two in there also, so you're relying on your youth to just burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about for you, Jessica?
So I initially started YouTube and content creation back in 2008 when it was pretty new. And in the space that I'm in, everybody was shooting either on like a MacBook webcam or like those little flip cameras. I don't know if anybody remembers those.
One of those.
Yeah,
are
they
the
just pop out
best.
the USB. It was so convenient.
I love it.
Yeah, and it was just super DIY.
And what about you, Pete?
I started making videos back when my dad spent way too much money on this huge editing setup with all these plastic buttons and pads, and It took up a whole office. My mom was pissed, and I remember just going down there and ruining all the settings that he made and taking his cameras outside, trying to make snowboard videos. One of his first cameras took a floppy disk, and you can get like a minute of video, and I just maximized that minute to the best I could. And then when YouTube kind of started, it was the same. I think probably how a lot of people start, just bedroom window light, just trying to make the best of it. No mic, just open air. Everything sounded awful. When I look back now, I cringe. But I think that's kind of part, the point.
What would you say are the biggest, most glaring changes in terms of how you were doing things then and how you're doing them now?
I think when I saw people starting to catch on and like what I was putting out, it made me want to put out better content. So I would look at my videos and think, wow, people really like this. How can I make it better for them? And then, you just kind of go down the list. You're like, well, I probably should get a light. Should probably have an actual microphone. Maybe I should comb my hair. And I still haven't learned that one. But, you just kind of go down the checklist to see what are the things that are going to make the production value better that aren't going to break the bank for me, but are going to, significantly up the quality. And you guys probably, everybody goes down that checklist.
Yeah. Also, when we were starting out too, the concept of making a job out of, I guess, using a camera was very different. Back in the early 2000s, even around 2009 when we started on YouTube, we were fans of cinema and filmmaking, and there's only so many, I guess, paths, I guess, to learn and get better at what you wanted to do. When you have a camera, there's only so many things you can create. But today, it's the concept of storytelling through moving images is so much more varied with all the different creators and comedians we see on YouTube. Not taking what we learned and what we were striving for with the camera, not taking that for granted has been really important to us. I guess in what we've seen through with vlogs or even just the types of shows that only exist online now. Finding all these niche mediums. Yeah.
But still rolling with that flip camera, Jessica? Yeah?
Yeah.
Still rolling with the flip camera?
Not anymore. That's retired somewhere. Not really sure where, but I feel like it's definitely an antique at this point in the video content creation space.
But yeah, so to take a step back, what gear are you using? What cameras are you guys shooting on? What are your post workflows looking like?
So for the Corridor channel, Sam and I are shooting on a red helium.
We were last year.
Sorry, red Gemini.
Now it's a Gemini, and everything's 4 times faster.
Yeah, because it's less resolution, which is good for us. And honestly, almost everything we do is just handheld at this point. The camera's heavy enough that it doesn't really shake too much, so you just kind of lean on the wall and get your shots. But more content is put out on the Corridor Crew channel than on the Corridor channel. And currently on the Corridor Crew channel, it's all Canon 80Ds, just shooting everything there. And it's great. The autofocus is wonderful, and it's just all about getting the content out. And more and more we realize that these days, the camera is not a tool that you can impress people with. It is purely for your ease of use. So you only use the tool that lets you get the images the easiest way and the most efficient way for you to do so. Getting an expensive camera to try to impress people with how good the image looks doesn't work anymore. So
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. Technology.
I'm gonna write that down.
And what about you, Jessica? What are you shooting on? What are you cutting on?
So for video, I shoot on either a Canon 6D or a Canon G7X, kind of depending on if it's a sit-down video or if it's a more vlog-style video. And for editing, I've recently started really playing with Adobe Premiere Rush, which is their new software that they rolled out. But Premiere, that is definitely my go-to.
Yeah, we'll touch more on Premiere Rush in a minute.
For sure.
Yeah.
I shoot everything on a PowerShot ELF. Yeah, great battery life.
Is it purple?
It's amazing. It's pink. Favorite color. No, I do a lot of it on the 1DX Mark II Canon DSLR. I have a C200 for a lot of the sit-down stuff when I'm doing tutorials, and I have a red that I'm terrified of, but I'll get there.
Yeah, those are intimidating.
Yeah,
just a bit.
Yeah, it's very heavy. You're right.
It looks really mean, right?
It looks great.
Like skulls and buzzsaws on it.
The image quality is amazing.
It is.
And post?
Post is Premiere. Everything's cut in Premiere. A little bit of After Effects for titles, or a little bit of sauce that we throw on at the end there. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it.
These guys use a little bit of After Effects too.
Just a little. Not a whole lot, from what I've seen.
Yeah. So I think that the conversation for a long while has been around like the democratization of filmmaking, and there was a lot of like eye rolling around like, oh, well, if everybody can do it, then it's just going to be a flood in the market. And like, what's the reality?
I mean, everybody can do it, and it is a flood in the market. That kind of is the reality. But I mean, it is also democratized, and at a certain point, you are seeing thousands of people getting to put their voice out there in filmmaking that otherwise wouldn't have been able to do it. And that's really cool. And like, you know, to us, that's competition. But to Niko, like the guy who's a filmmaker nerd, like, I really like it. And it's cool to see that. So, you know, it's one of those things too, it's like when I hear you guys tell the stories of like how you got started, it's always, right now it's still a little bit of like a, oh, my dad just happened to have this camera, my dad just happened to have this, my mom happened to have this, and, you know, we kind of got lucky, or we happened to be like nerds that were into that tech, and that gave us like that little step up.
Yeah.
But these days, that edge is gone. Being a camera nerd isn't going to help you, because what's much more better is being somebody who actually knows how to like say something and move people and, you know, catch people's emotions with the content you're making.
Although, if you do have a dad out there that has like a red camera just for fun,
take it.
Like,
Use it.
pretty cool.
Use it.
It's a cool dad.
The era's not over yet. It'll be over soon, but not yet.
And for the dads in the audience,
Buy a
feel
red.
free to go out and buy a red for your kid. But
I
so,
bet it's happened. I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to see. I really love how it's like morphing filmmaking. Because I think like traditional filmmaking and what a lot of like younger content creators are doing and what we're doing on YouTube is really different. And even just like from telling stories, because the way you would think about telling a story, you're like, well, I need a protagonist, an antagonist, but like a story could just be you making coffee or you waking up and getting to your car. It depends on how you're gonna space it out. So I think how it's evolving now, and you know, being able to see that happen through the eyes of so many different people, that's filmmaking.
and then it's about sort of honing what it is you want to say,
Yeah.
how you want to say it, what's like your style. But then it's also about efficiencies, right? You're having to make more efficient workflows because the name of the game is really like to be pumping out
It's hard.
content a lot.
Yeah, consistency is the name of the game, I've found. So a lot of my friends that want to get into YouTube, they're like, yo, Pete, riddle me this.
Yo, Pete.
Yo, Pete, riddle me this. So like, how do you do it? Who do I have to pay to get the views like that? And I'm like, you don't have to pay anybody. You just gotta keep at it. You can't just upload Monday and then peace for 2 weeks and come back and upload again maybe like once, and then, you know, a month goes by. And I liken that to any show you would watch on TV. You know, we're watching Lost, right? And we're about to open the hatch. Everyone wants to see what's in the hatch, but then maybe Lost just stops airing for 2 months, and they come back, they air a little bit, they're gone for 3 months. Like, no one would stick around.
Do. Like
no one would
December
stick around.
through March, you're like, what?
Yes, but everyone knows the Christmas break,
I know.
right? But and we have those. We have our own Christmas breaks. But I think that is detrimental to people. You're trying to build like a habit for people to watch you, and you become a part of their day. And if you're not consistent, you're not a part of their day. You're just a reminder of how often you don't upload. Right? So
And you're having to apologize when you do.
Yeah, hey, so like you upload and they're like, oh yeah, this guy never posts. See ya. And that's what's hard to keep up with.
So how do you keep up?
You do it. You just do it. You go out and you make something. And I think it's worth pointing out, like, you can make something over and over and over and over, and it's possible to not grow by being consistent. But the first step to doing anything is taking that first step and getting out there. The second step, once you're walking and you're moving forwards, is growing as an artist too. Because it's not just about making something all the time, but it's about taking time to learn and to have critiques and to reflect and meet other filmmakers, artists, whatever, and learn from them as well. Because you always have to be growing. The world doesn't stand still. But the very first step is just doing it. And it's easy to get in your own way and not do it. And you have to do it fast? That's tough. Just go do it. It doesn't matter. It took too long, write a shorter video.
Yeah.
So tell us some of the efficiencies that you guys have built into your process. Like, are you using templates? Are you using, color profiles? Or like what's the secret sauce to getting the videos made and getting them made quickly?
Like repetition. The more you do it, the faster you get. That's just with anything, right? You're probably the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Able to pump them out faster. At the beginning, it might take you like a month, you want it to be perfect. Then you realize that's not the name of the game. And you start getting faster and faster. You start developing workflows like keyboard shortcuts and little things that you see that worked or didn't, and then you can trim it down to what's really, really efficient. Yeah.
For me, something that really happens is having a default project saved where I just have all of the things that I always drop in, all my overlays, the music I like to use, like sound effects. So that way, every time I just start a new project, I have all the things that I would normally just export in, spend the 10 minutes finding everything.
I like that.
And just like pop it in, and you're like, go from there.
That's good.
Smart.
For us, it's writing a script differently than you usually would. It's writing a script that's also half a beat sheet, also half a shot list. And all those things are combined into one conceptual screenplay. And it's not like your traditional format, because it can't be your traditional format. Your writing needs to go hand in hand with exactly how many shots you can get and exactly how many VFX cards you can pull. And that's all just one cohesive unit for us in the script stage when we start.
So how much are you thinking through the edit as you're writing the
100%.
concept? Or,
I'm watching the final piece in my head when I'm writing the script.
and how about for you guys?
The whole time I'm filming, I'm always like, okay, well, if I keep messing up, I have to just spend more time editing. So I really try to nail it down and be like, okay, this is exactly what I want to say, so I can shorten that editing time down. But yeah, constantly thinking through it.
Never say you can fix it in post. That just takes up time.
Just
Yeah,
do
just
it
do it
then,
right.
do it there. Take the 5 minutes.
And what about color? I know that you guys said that you have like specific.
Yeah, we do
talk
have
about
color
your
workflows, but I kind of feel like Peter should start that one.
Yeah, I feel like
It's kind of all
Peter?
over the place for me. No, it is. I have like some like LUTs and like preset stuff that when we're shooting, we've built these looks over time, and I have an editor and we work together. And if we're shooting in the studio for tutorials, that LUT specifically is applied, and then the color always looks right. And for vlogs outdoors, we have a certain look that we drop on. But sometimes I just go like really weird with it, and I color every clip as I go in a vlog. So I'll drop something on the timeline, look at it, pick my in and out points, I'll color it, then I'll move on to the next thing. Probably highly inefficient, but I enjoy it. I just like doing it. So sometimes I color as I go. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what where the vlog is headed. I'll get 5 minutes of a vlog done, and I'll think, I should go out and change that ending. I'll put on the same clothes I was wearing, head back out, film the rest, come back, keep coloring. It gets so backwards, but it's just fun. So sometimes it's dialed. You got the looks that you've already, the LUTs, the presets, all that stuff that you're used to, and then sometimes I just kind of let it happen.
Coloring is really rewarding. I agree. Like it's definitely that phase of the edit where it's like, oh, it doesn't look bad. I didn't screw it all up.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's kind of a similar thing where it's like you take some time when you have some downtime and you mess with your settings. It's like, if I shot in this mode and I colored it like this, how will that turn out? If I shot like this and colored it like this, how will that turn out? And you kind of experiment and you dial in your standard. So now when we go out and we film in a standard color space, in a standard gamma, and then we have a standard lookup table workflow to take us to an output where we can then put different film looks on it that we've already made or make our own, but starting from a consistent starting point. So we know quickly how to jump through the hoops and start, get past the stage of like, oh, does it look good? And now get to the stage of now I can stylize it to make it look how I want it to look.
Yeah, I would say actually in like actual like very like tangible terms, two things really, really, really sped things up for us. And both happened around like 3 years ago, but not manually color grading every shot. We used to either do stuff like through like Resolve or something like that as like a final export. And we still do that every once in a while, but honestly we're finding most of this stuff is best done with a single LUT, use Lumetri, and just do it on a shot-by-shot basis, and it's easy because it just, it's applying to each shot each time you make a tweak. And then the second one is actually using Andrew Kramer's FX Console plugin, which I don't know why doesn't exist or it's not truly a part yet, because it's just like, it's hard to use without at this point. Like, not having to deal with menus for using After Effects is, it's so fast, yeah. It's like everything's faster when it's just a keyboard.
Yeah, so with your VFX workflow, for you guys specifically, but anybody who'd like to chime in, how much are you doing basic VFX in Premiere, and then do you leave it all and jump to After Effects at the end, or are you jumping back and forth all the time? How does that work?
Yeah, it depends on the video, but actually some of the most recent ones we did like a primitive technology parody that involves like tons and tons of composite shots, and to
Super primitive.
yeah, like really just raw, no plugins needed. But basically, we would construct most of the shots like 50% or so in Premiere, so we can actually watch all the clips, all the plates, all the stuff working, and then we can just select it all. It's in After Effects. All the masks are still there, and we, just can work off of that work rather than redoing it from the ground up. So that helps a ton.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say rhythm is really important to visual effects. And so we get the rhythm in Premiere, and then we can actually make it look good in After Effects.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So for people who are getting started or wanting to get started, how important is it to take the time to really learn the tools first, or do you advocate for jumping in and just get going?
Yeah, jumping in and getting going. That's how I've usually learned software in the past, where it's like, I need to do one thing, and I learn, you learn things along the way, but that's usually the best way, in my opinion. Just, figure out what your end product is or what your end goal is, and, you'll learn everything else along the way. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but my learning process generally consists of learning a weird hodgepodge way of doing what I need to do, and then at some point getting the opportunity to sit with somebody who's like working in the industry full time, and then like realizing that they are doing everything 5 times faster than I am because they actually know how to use all the actual shortcuts. And that's really enlightening. So try to sit with somebody who knows what they're doing after you've spent some time in it.
I think it's definitely so helpful to at least kind of get a foundation idea of what the menus are, what the hotkeys are. Because when I first started using Premiere, for the longest time, there were so many things. I knew C and I knew V, and that was it. I worked off of that. And then my husband was like, okay, Jessica, you sit down with me. I'm going to show you how to actually use the software, because I'd spend so long. I'd spend days editing one video, and he was just showed me everything, and I was like, oh, I had no idea that there was this shortcut. I had no idea that this is how you do this, and it definitely helped. It sped me way up. Highly recommend.
I'd like to introduce you to the letter Q.
Q.
You should try it out.
Q and W, that's
Q.
where it's at.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
Yeah,
Not-
Q's
not
pretty,
Command
Q's pretty
Q.
popular.
All
Not-
bad, all
not
bad.
Command Q.
Oh, somebody's a Mac guy.
I remember when I was in college and they were teaching us Photoshop for like the final exam. They took our mice away and made us do the whole thing with just
That's
the
cool.
keyboard. And so many
Wow.
kids were just like, "Oh, I'm done." And like people were walking out. It was like the panic. You could just feel it in the room. But it really made everybody, get it together. Because
Yeah.
he was like, "Listen, if you can't do it with a mouse, get out. You need to be able to do this super fast." And when I was just with Andrew Kramer, and he was showing me some stuff with the plugin, watching him open After Effects, new composition, it was just like he was typing an email. I was just sitting there watching. I'm like, "Oh, you can do that?" He's like, "Do what?" I'm like, "Never mind. I'll see myself out."
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like I've had so many conversations, especially like right after a launch with like Ryan Connolly, where I'd be like, "Why are you still doing it that way?" And he's like, "I don't have time to stop to learn to do it the faster way that you guys have just engineered, because I know it's going to save me time, but like I just don't have the time to do it." But to your point, I think also it's interesting in terms of people not saying, "Oh, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just not going to do it in my videos." Like actually taking the time to be like, "I don't know how to do that. Like, let me go figure it out," is also an important part of the process.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting in over your head usually helps. That's how actually about 90% of our videos are us getting in over our heads. We're like, "Oh, this will be easy. We've done this," or like we've done a version like this, or there's only 5 VFX shots in this video, and then there's like 50. But then we learn a lot along the way, and usually after an all-nighter or two, we've got it figured out.
So how do you guys find the balance between quality and quantity?
I think when you're trying to pump out videos fast, or there's going to be a compromise at some point. I've always liked that quote, "Done is better than perfect," just because I could literally work on something forever, and I'll just keep finding things that I want to change. So at some point, you just gotta send it.
Send it.
Yeah, full send.
Yeah, I mean, it's also what's your ultimate goal? It's like everyone's like, "Oh, you guys have sweet VFX in your videos," and it's like I can point out like a dozen like really serious like glitches or errors that we like leave in. Like we cut corners. Like Clint hates me for this because he's always like, "Oh, there's something wrong with your shot." I'm like, it's fine. Like no one's looking here in this shot. They're looking over here. Why would they see the weird glitchy stuff happening here? You know. So it's also it's like thinking, does this hurt your end goal or your end product? You know, it's like, why are people watching this video? If are they actually going to be angry if they see like a glitch or not? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the most useful things I learned in art school was learning to feel or follow where your eye goes to an image. It's a very subconscious thing that you don't think about.
Oh yeah, that's the foundation of our VFX.
Yeah.
Whenever there's like something we don't want to do, we put a lens flare over it, and then
Misdirection.
it's like
What a hack.
it's like there's an explosion shot. It's like, oh gosh, and just lens flare and then add some wiggle.
But you learn, and this is the issue. Like when we did some visual effects as freelance back when we first moved to Los Angeles, when you deliver a shot, the producer opens it up and he frame by frame scans the whole thing. I was like, oh, that thing in the corner is not, you didn't mask it well, there's not enough feather. And it's like, nobody's eye's gonna be right there when there's an explosion over there. And it's like, you need to trust that I'm getting you the shot for cheap because I know that people are looking at the explosion. I spent my time there. And I didn't worry about that fuzzy.
Yeah, that's why we're charging you $50, man.
Yeah. But when it's your own thing and you're dealing with quantity and you have quality that you're trying to keep up there, knowing where the human eye goes and kind of training yourself to feel that subconscious impulse to follow it around, because in that first half a second, in those first 3 frames, your eye goes and it scans over the image. Feel that, know it, and then that tells you and informs you where to spend your time on the shots.
I learned that in graphic design too. Like when you land on a website, it kind of where it is the eye, where are you going to map it when you're designing it? Where do you want them to go? Same thing with videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we design our thumbnails now too.
Oh no.
Get wrecked.
You bring up an interesting point about audiences and how much are you actually one of the things that I really love about YouTube and online creation is the feedback loop, being able to see what your audience is interested in, see what performs well, what doesn't, literally hear their feedback through comments. How much do you let your audience drive the content that you're creating or what comes next? And how much are you really focusing on keeping your hands on the wheel and making those decisions?
Well, views don't lie. That helps us. Definitely guides what we do a lot because, we just see where that crossover is between what we enjoy doing and what performs well. Because if you did one or the other, well, you're either going to get no views or you're going to lose your soul. So, but that's generally our our method.
It's hard because you like doing something one way and you're pumped on something and the audience isn't. But then if you just start catering to everything the audience tells you, I don't fully believe that the audience knows what they want until you show it to them, because you could make something that they ask for and it does horribly. And you're like, this is what you wanted. Yeah. And they're like, we don't know what we want. And I'm like, me neither anymore. And then you just leave.
Well, you can also tell a little bit too. I've noticed, there's some videos that we've put out too that really underperform. I guess underperform compared to others, but when the comments start becoming sentences and paragraphs and people are really willing to give you their thoughts on it, it's you're okay, that felt way better than seeing 7 digits on the view counter or something like that. So it's really a big balance there too with that.
Well, I think it also addresses the fight against the algorithm, right? If you're always trying to maximize the algorithm, and the algorithm changes constantly. Yeah.
I mean, there's 2 facets to the algorithm. There's YouTube, and there's human beings and human nature. And that human nature side of the algorithm is always the same. The YouTube side of it is always changing. But there's certain things you can do that tap into human nature that will always work.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they are.
Have you cracked that nut?
Just one.
Okay,
because this is what they're here for.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
People want to walk away from a video feeling like they've learned something. And so if at the beginning you can give them a mystery, they will stay until that mystery is solved.
Okay.
That gets you watch
That's a good
time.
one.
Put a face in your thumbnail. I don't know.
If you want more, we're number 2 and 3 will be released tomorrow at our next presentation.
Number 2, Tuesday at...
PayPal them $20 and they'll give you 2 and 3.
So obviously another big component of what you guys do involves travel. How does your production process look the same or look different when you're on the road or on the go versus when you're in studio or in your home?
Well, I wish I had all my filters installed on my laptop. That's about it.
That's actually really funny. That's accurate. Yeah, because you work mostly at a desktop, so like a lot of the stuff that you're working with within Lightroom or Premiere and your presets and LUTs are on that computer, and then you take your laptop and you're like, I haven't updated it. I don't have any of my stuff. I'm useless. Who am I?
That'd be sweet. A filter kind of like sync thing where you'll like, I don't know.
Like Creative Cloud libraries? I
Oh.
don't know, have you heard of them?
That would be cool. I think sometimes my travel stuff looks better just because
Ta-da.
it's new, it's fresh. A lot of people are used to seeing me in the office, the same setting. Next thing you know, you're running through the black sand dunes in Iceland with an epic drone shot, and you're like, oh, it's exciting. It's fresh for the audience. So I think when I get to travel, I use that to my advantage to, make things different, mix it up. I don't know how often you guys travel, maybe the same?
Kind of. So last year, my husband and I spent the year traveling, and for us, it was the most difficult thing trying to find the balance of like creating content and trying to like post weekly with the stuff we just shot. So I think when we travel and I'm creating content, there's definitely a lack of sleep that happens because you're trying to like get everything out and be like, yeah, look, I'm here, I'm doing these things, versus holding on to that footage and then you get back and then it's like, oh, the trip was a couple weeks ago.
You're not as pumped
Yeah,
anymore. You're
yeah.
like, I'll do it next week.
So definitely a sacrifice in sleep.
And Jess, I know that's actually, travel is where Rush comes into play in your workflow, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
So I feel like I'm always doing something. I'm never stationary. We're either traveling or I'm in the car or I'm in like just somewhere. So Adobe Premiere Rush is really great because you can shoot from your phone, or if you want, you can shoot from a camera and then airdrop it, or not airdrop it, Wi-Fi it onto your phone, and you can start editing from there. You can drop your clips in, and you can really start to get a rough cut of what you want to make. And then when you get home, you can just sync it on over to your computer and continue the edit from there. So that's really great because it really streamlines the process of editing for times when you're traveling, you don't have as much time to edit. Saves a lot of time.
So I'm going to jump to questions from the audience right after this, but I want to go down the line. And what's your number one time-saving tip?
Q.
Q.
It's
The letter.
This panel's brought to you by the letter Q.
Exactly. It's Q.
It's true.
It's Q. Everybody's like, what is the Q?
My number one time-saving clip is when you're color grading, to put an adjustment layer over your entire timeline,
Essential.
do your grade on that, and do your individual corrections shot by shot. That's
Very
it.
nice.
I totally agree with that one. That one is a lifesaver. For me, I would say I had something, and then I totally agreed with you. Oh, no. You go, and I'll come back to me.
There's this life-saving little hack that you can put into Terminal that'll get rid of the beach ball if your software ever freezes, and you can save your project.
Really?
So then it saves you all the time from having to do it again.
Oh.
Yeah, life-changing.
And I actually thought of a real answer. Thank you guys for being patient. There's a little filter called mastering for audio, and it's in Premiere and in Audition. And I try and put it on everything because I love doing sound design, but not sound editing and like actually getting things to spec and dealing with the levels and stuff. Mm-hmm. But basically, mastering combines like all the actual audio filters you need to release something and feel pretty comfortable with it because it's handling compression, it handles EQ, it handles like normalization, and it handles limiting, which basically guarantees that your audio is not going to destroy someone's ears. And it's like 2 clicks. So,
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
highly
great.
recommended.
That's always overlooked. It's like the last thing I worry about. That's cool.
You just throw it on the master track, call it a day.
That's actually a big. I'll give one myself. Is auto ducking is saving people a boatload of time. If you're not familiar, it's like you just can click auto duck and it will automatically duck either your music or your ambience when people are talking or when you have, you know, a sound effect. It'll do, and then their keyframes are all in the audio track, so you can go and manually adjust them, but it saves a
That too.
bunch of time.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to take some questions from the audience. Yeah, right down here. And I'll repeat the question so that people can hear what it was. Yeah.
A lot of people know that in Hollywood or New York or big productions, everyone has their departments, like editor or audio or writer. But YouTube's a really different beast, just internet content altogether, where a lot of you do pretty much a little bit of everything. Do you think that's more advantageous for the platform, or would you rather specialize in what you have the ability to do?
Okay, so the question is that in more Hollywood-type productions that there are very clearly defined departments. There's editorial, there's VFX, there's audio, but in the YouTube space, there's a lot of like jack of all trade, and you're having to do a little bit of everything. Do they think that it's advantageous, or do you think that there could be some benefit to having more defined individual roles and departments?
So I'm sure you've all heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. What most people don't know is there's a second half to that saying, which is jack of all trades, master of none, is often better than a master of one. So it actually goes on to say that being a jack of all trades can be very useful. I think there's a lot to be said for being able to do a lot of different jobs. There's certain times when you're trying to do all the different jobs, it'll end up basically killing you and you'll run out of energy and you just know you're going to pull it off. And it's up to you to know what your capabilities are. But I would say, especially in this day and age, knowing how to do a lot of different things, and especially knowing how they all fit together, is super important, regardless of whether or not you actually are in a Hollywood production or shooting your own YouTube videos.
I think the cool thing is, too, is like when you're just getting started, it enables you to get started and produce content and make something that you can be proud of. And as you grow and you start collaborating with other people, like maybe you don't do as much of that thing anymore, but I also think that it really helps when you understand all of the disciplines, because then when you start working with other people, you can be like, yeah, that shouldn't take that long, or
Yeah.
oh, maybe you should put a little bit more effort into that. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, back here. I can hear you. Oh, yeah. So the question is around how your creative workspace, like the space that you are in, helps in finding your creative inspiration. And
I think your atmosphere is the people you surround yourself with, the atmosphere is a big part of it. If you work in kind of like an uninspiring area or an uninspiring office, or, that doesn't really breed the best creativity. It's just like a rainy day or a sunny day, right? Same thing. Like on a sunny day, I'm amped. When it's snowing and -40, I am not amped.
so live in Toronto.
So come to Canada. Yeah. But yeah, I think having a cool spot and a cool place with cool people is you guys have the coolest spot. Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome. When are you going to come by? I think, honestly, our spot isn't aesthetically that nice. I think what you said, though, about the people, I think that's the most important thing. Surrounding yourself with good people creatively, who you can mesh with, or at least grow an idea from, is very, very useful.
Yeah, people that they don't see it as competition. They don't see you as like a threat. They just want you to do well. And they're pumped when you do well. And when you bounce ideas off them, they'll be real with you. Are those ideas good? Like, you're only as good as like the immediate people around you. And if they're just pulling you down, nothing good's gonna come with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's essential. I have like a bedroom office, so because my stuff is so lifestyle and style centered. So when my office, like when we first moved into the space we're in now, when it was not decorated and I was just filming in like the corner without my shelves up and without the decor I had, I was making pretty crappy content. I was like, dang, this sucks. But once I started adding stuff in, adding my personality and my life in, and I feel like my content just really stepped up and I had more fun and felt more comfortable creating in the space I was in. Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, right here in front. how far in advance do you produce or plan your content? Like, how deep do you go in the pre-production?
For the constant shows, we have a show that comes out on Wednesday and Saturdays. We plan about 2 weeks ahead, 3 weeks ahead. And we'll have like ideas beyond that, but it's just fogginess, general ideas. For the stuff on the Corridor channel, that's like a little bit more into like the traditional like short film territory, that can be planned out 2 or 3 months in advance.
For me, it kind of depends on what I'm shooting, how produced it is. If it's less produced, sometimes I film the day of. When it's more produced, sometimes it can go 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. But yeah, there's definitely some last minute things in there.
I don't think I've ever planned anything 4 weeks out, ever.
Really?
I kind of just make it up as I go.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of the times I don't know what I'm doing that day, and we'll just figure it out and upload it and full send, same thing. Even with like a documentary that I just put out, we figured out it was a documentary when we got back from shooting the documentary. And then we were just like, hey, this is a documentary. Let's keep making it that way. So I've just always kind of worked really well when I'm put on the spot. When it's like last minute or, I mean, sometimes that's not the best thing to do. Obviously, planning anything is going to yield better results, more polished results, professional. And like you guys are a testament to that. Like you couldn't just wing one of those Corridor videos and have them.
You'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised, actually.
The difference.
I mean, you are right. Like planning them can be
difference to
important.
the pre-production is huge.
But doing what you're doing is also really important because you need to be able to react to what you're making as you make it. Because halfway through, if it's not working, don't spend another 2 weeks making something that's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's what's cool about this whole thing. It's just that everyone's different. It's just a big mix bag, and you just reach in and see what works for you.
Yeah, I will say though, with like modern filmmaking technology, like shooting digitally instead of on film, for example, like having a camera that you can own instead of having to rent, like all these different things, like make it so you can actually halfway through your project be like, oh, I need this shot. Okay, I'm gonna get it right now.
Yes, that's awesome.
That's huge. Yeah.
And with that, not just content, like even if you're working freelance or that kind of thing. I mean, I used to shoot weddings on film. That's insane. And then I would take that film, little caveat here, I would take that film and then send it without tracking Canada Post to LA to get developed. And I was like, what's wrong with that? I would never do that now. Anyway, just thought you'd enjoy that.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question from the audience because this guy, when I didn't call on him last time, went, oh! So we're going to take one more. So the question is, how do you as creators take a story that you're invested in and you care about and make an audience also invest and care about it?
It's a good question. And it's something that people actually do all the time. And I think the core to that is everything can be a story, but you need to figure out how to communicate it as a story to people. And I'm going to try to rattle off our points that we hit off the top of my head, so I might get it wrong, but we're trying to figure out how can we make sure that everything we have at least hits the fundamentals of a story. And this is like just basic, like story approach here that we've since flexed away from a little bit. We have some flexibility with it. But step one is tell the audience what you're trying to do. Tell them why you're doing it. Tell them what's at stake if you don't do it. Tell them what challenges are going to get in the way to prevent you from doing it. And tell them how you're going to get over those challenges. And this can apply to literally like, I have to go to the store and buy a new pair of sunglasses. It can be the simplest story, but if you hit those things well, everybody understands it as a story and it has drama. And it's just all about, once again, what do you want? Why do you want it? What's going to stop you from getting it? What's going to happen if you don't get it? How are you going to get around those challenges? And then they're invested and they'll watch. And it doesn't matter what the story is.
Dude, I was really hoping you would drop the mic after that. That was great.
Okay, so in closing, I'm just going to go down and ask the question that you ask when you're ending a panel, which is, what piece of advice would you give to anybody here, anybody watching on the live stream who is interested in getting started?
I make things always. Good things, bad things, terrible things, the best things, even things that you don't plan on putting online. Just because we're content creators doesn't mean that it has to go online. You can still create content because creating is fun. and it's practice, and it gets you in the zone, and it's just a good thing to do. So every day, if it's just a tweet, if it's an Instagram story, if it's a thought you had that's funny, send it.
For me, my number one tip that I always tell people is to stop waiting and just to start. I know so many people who are like, oh, Jessica, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a content creator, I want to make short films, like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, have you started yet? And they're like, well, no, not yet. I'm waiting for a new camera, a setup, like the perfect this, the perfect that. But they're just putting off waiting because they want it to be perfect. Your first something is never going to be perfect. It's always it's gonna suck, let's be honest. So just starting and getting into it is the best thing you can do, because from there, it's all downhill. It all gets easier from there. And you know, if you look back in 6 months and you're like, ooh, this sucks, you can always delete it, private it, hide it. And if it is cringy, that means that you've improved. And I mean, it's only growth.
Yeah, that's great. It's gonna sound a little cheesy, but every single one of you is unique. And in the world of online video or art in general, there are thousands of people doing it. So be yourself, because you need to be unique. If you're just gonna do what someone else is doing, no one's going to really care too much. But you are unique, so be yourself and be unique, and it'll show in your work, and you'll gather your own audience because of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say something kind of similar, but yeah, it's like get inspired from the people you look up to and learn from them and learn how they do what, I guess what you're enjoying. If you like someone's movies, learn their technique. If someone's doing a show on YouTube, like study it, break it down, do it. And then if you're ever going to attempt it yourself, do your best to bring that your own spin to it, because the world doesn't need two of anything out there. So
shoes, though. Need two shoes.
Yeah, you do need two shoes.
Yeah, except for two shoes.
True.
Gloves.
Yeah, gloves. Yeah.
Wheels on a bicycle.
Earrings.
Pant legs.
Pants.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part
Yeah,
of the panel.
I could do a kilt, I think.
All right. Thank you guys so much for
Thank you, everybody.
joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Sam, Niko, Jessica, Pete, thank you so much for being here. Again, if you guys want to see more from these guys from Corridor Digital, they're going to be on the stage tomorrow and Wednesday, and we have all of our theater schedule over at the information booth, so check out more with Adobe. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.